I am in really good session today. Hope you found it helpful. I'm just going to run through now what we discussed, mainly in the setup, talking about the grip. If we zoom in here now on your grip position, we can see if I sort of draw a line through the club shaft itself, you can see your left wrist here now, not really actually sitting on top of the grip, which means your left hand now is what we call a little bit too much in a weak position, a bit too much underneath. And the problem that's going to cause in your backswing, as you started moving the club away now, there's not really much ability for your wrist to hinge. You can actually see now the club almost kind of being dragged back by your hands rather than engaging the wrist. The problem is now the club wants to kind of go up here above you, and if there's not a hinge in the wrist here now, the arms are going to start creating that movement. So we can sort of see it about here now. Even at this point now, the wrists haven't really been able to make any movement at all, and eventually now the arms kind of give way. And we can see the left arm sort of bending, the left wrist now getting what we call sort of bowed position. The club face at this position right now is in what we'd call a closed position, aiming low to the left. So as a result of this now, you're not likely to get the club to the bottom of the ball easily. As a result, you can see your head movement now trying to get down to the golf ball to try and get underneath the golf ball. Your arms are already in that sort of bent, tucked up position. We come into the golf ball now. Now in this case, you sort of compensate well enough and we get an okay shot. But you can see a very sort of restricted follow through, not really going to be able to create much of a whip or a speed swing with this golf club. So your distance is going to be a bit limited going forward. So trying to hold the club now, as we can see, a bit more up in this sort of sword position. So you're kind of concentrating now, you can see, putting your left hand, gripping the club a little bit more in the fingers, dropping it down there so you get your left part of your wrist a bit more on top of the grip. The sort of checkpoints for you now are going to be your grip in the golf club now. We want to be able to see two of the knuckles here of the left hand here. They're sort of pink sort of circles identified on your glove there to kind of show you. And we can see here now, if we sort of draw a line again up the club, your left wrist now is much more on top of that grip. That's going to give you the chance for your wrist to actually hinge in the golf. So we can see as we start going back here now, the wrist already starting to engage a little bit more. And therefore the left arm is able to stay a little bit straighter. And as a result, you're able to get a slightly longer backswing as we take the golf club back. Now, obviously, instinctively for you, your head wants to dip down to the golf ball. So we're not really going to see much difference in this transition now, because that's basically instinctively how you hit the golf ball. But over time, once you start realising how we're going to create this sort of circle around your body by using the better movement in the wrist hinge, by holding the club better, we can then work sort of on the next stage going forward, creating that sort of fuller swing, getting that ball going a little bit further and a little bit straighter. So focus on that grip, get that grip much more in the fingers of the left hand. Like I say, if you sort of hold it up in that kind of sword position here, making sure the club we can see is a little bit twisted to the sort of downward position. We want the club at this point to be a bit more lined up with that green line. So make sure the club is sort of pointing up straight, but get that left hand on the club first in the fingers, and then your right hand's going to come and sit on a little bit more on top, making it just a little bit easier for you then to hinge the wrist in the backswing and create the movements that we're looking for. So I hope that makes sense. Any questions, obviously give me a shout, and I'll see you up next lesson. Cheers.